coach Bwesigye Nason. Yes, a sports member. As a kid, I grew up in Nakasero.
Yeah.
My father was a public servant. He was working with Uganda Television and Ministry of Education in particular. So I grew up in Nakasero flats, and later on we moved to Kisugu. Volleyball. I went to a school called Mitiana Secondary.
Yeah.
And some gentleman from Kenya, he was our teacher. He joined us when we were in S2, and he was looking for the tall boys.
Basically
Tall boys to teach rugby and volleyball. I opted for volleyball, and we started playing. But he also didn't know volleyball because later in my journey, I noticed we didn't know volleyball. I shouldn't say I was an outstanding player.
Okay.
I had just my strength, reception and block. Those were my key areas, and I think you will notice it is my philosophy
Exactly.
in coaching.
In coaching.
Yes. So most of the time I was at the bench, and that is where my coaching career starts.
According to some of the founders, because I've been told one of the founders of Sports Volleyball Club, what is this guiding thing? Was it a spontaneous decision that you start Sports, or it was just something that came building and generalizing things? How was it? Because now, let us walk through Sports.
When we are still at sharing, we got a father who my teammates did not like, but for me, I think we benefited a lot because
it was Father Kainja.
Yes, he did. He's the one who threw us out of sharing. He said we were over age. Here we deal with only 18-year-olds and below, and he pushed us out of sharing, and we first disappeared. And that time, actually, Dan and which other player had come up, and they were part of the team.
Novices.
After all, we have been there and played, we shall get where to go. But then these ones were saying, no, the team has to stand. The team
that was Dan, Kawoya,
I think Mayanja, Kawoya and Michael. Yeah.
So those individuals are saying,
yes,
whatever it takes, even if they have chased us out here,
and Dan,
the team has to be there.
Yes, Dan was in the youth wing of the church. And then he managed to convince the church to come and start playing under that mango tree.
Yes, around there.
Monumental in the history of what?
Of Sports.
We started digging the court using hose. For me, I'd never held a hoe before. So I was just there to give morale mainly, pretending. But Dan and Tony, I think, Dan was very good at his thing because he had just come from, we had also found him in Kisubi.
Yeah, Kisubi.
Technical.
Because that's where he was in.
Yes. Kisubi Technical is where we had met him because we used to go for those friendlies everywhere. Yes. He dug the whole court and put it there, said, now we need to do the balls. Some of us had started working that time. Yeah, much as I was at Makerere University that time, but I was working, I was teaching. Even Michael was working, Kawoya was also working.
Then Tony?
Yeah, he was working. Most of the people that did the financial contribution were either me, Michael or Kawoya. Yes. And then eventually Rasa came back. He had some money, actually he pushed us. Eventually, of course, Serubiri comes. Now, when they chase us and we find our home here, we want to remain with our name sharing. But the other team still wanted its name as sharing.
So does it mean when you guys left sharing, some people remained there?
Some people remained there. The young ones, they wanted the young ones. When we come here, we say, how do we maintain the name? So we start by calling ourselves ADF,
Anti-Divinity Forces.
ADF sharing. And that time there was a rebel group called ADF.
In Kasese.
And it caused us problems because security even came and picked one of us in the names of Eddie.
Yes,
Odindo. And took him for questioning.
Why did you choose
the name?
ADF.
Yeah, then eventually they noticed we were harmless group down here. So we said we have to change the name. And then we said we called ourselves Sharing in Sports.
Sharing in Sports.
And even amongst us, there are some people who never wanted that name to change.
I think that's the evolution of names. Now,
Sharing in Sports. We said we don't need to use the word sharing because that time we had started competing with these big teams and wanted, we noticed we were giving sharing what? Mileage. So we decided to say we cut the sharing to S, and then we say let's call ourselves Sport, and that I, instead of standing like this, let's make it that upper score, and we call it S. That is the birth of the name Sport S.
Who was the chaplain in those days?
Father Champagne was. I did not interact with him. I think we only had a meeting with him.
As volleyballers.
I think he was very supportive of the sport.
Yeah.
Yes, because at times would get balls as donations, but most of the time we were actually buying our own balls. And that time there was a habit of stealing balls. Some players would go out and steal balls.
So you'd go and hunt.
Hunt balls, because you would go with 2 balls for a tournament. You come back with none. The next time you go with 1, you come back with 3. That was the practice.
How were you organizing yourselves administratively?
That time,
that's when
anyone that was supportive was the manager.
As long as you have money.
Yes, we got many managers. There was Eddie from Uganda AIDS Commission. He was so supportive.
Okay.
Yeah, he used to buy us jerseys, used to buy us balls. But of course, we were also not so accountable. In around 99. Yes, I think that's when we sat down. It was around 99.
Yeah.
And we decided to have an executive.
As a team.
And we also had decided to have a coach. Yes, and I remember the first coach was, I think, Mayanja and Sadat.
Tony Mayanja.
Yes.
And Sadat Waguma.
Yeah, and Sadat Waguma. And of course, I was heading the technical and I was still the manager.
So yes.
Yeah, we didn't have a president that time. Yes, so we just had a funny structure.
By 1999, had sport started engaging itself into competitions like tournaments?
Yes. Yes, we had started engaging ourselves in tournaments, and I think we had 2 teams already.
Who brought up the issue of tigers? How does it come?
Of course, all those were
spontaneous decisions.
Yes, on court. We decided on court. This guy is playing like a tiger, and yeah, some of those names started growing from court, and they started gaining ground.
So kindly take us through, what is that one thing or things that you did and that helped you take us to the first league?
First of all, we used to have this training ground was a very good training ground. Yes, we used to develop very many players. We kept on developing many players, but clubs would come and fish from us.
Why?
Like you see some of these clubs in the league that are in Serie B, like in Serie B. And now teams, I'll give an example of Kobab. It has provided very many players to other clubs.
Exactly.
That was the Sportest that time.
Sport,
I mean KVC, which was playing at this level, because it was a power in East Africa. So they would come and pick. people like Komakech Innocent, people like Watante, people
Joseph
like
Akera.
Kawenyera, people like no, Joseph Akera did not.
Had gone.
He did not play here, but all those people started from here.
They started the people who started from
Sporters,
here.
yes.
Okay,
the
I thought you were
days,
talking of, yeah. I thought you were talking of the strong players in that time.
No, I'm talking about the players who started
who passed
from
through
here.
Sporters.
Yes, they were actually they were actually part of us, but these teams kept on taking them. Then
why? Because we didn't have the money to maintain them.
We didn't have
they
the money,
were a better side.
but also they were aspiring for
bigger things.
For bigger things.
And Sporters
because for us, we only would participate.
That is it.
Yes, that was our target. And of course, we used to manage being third or fourth. We were able to beat KVCB here and there.
But KVCA we couldn't have.
No, that one was not our match. Yes. So we sit down in around 2002 when we got Serubiri as part of us.
Yeah.
He was willing to come and lose weight, but we noticed he would help us in management.
Financially.
Yeah. So even in management. So we come up with a proper structure. I think that's when we came up with a proper structure which had a patron, and it had a chairman, it had a vice and what. And so I was the first patron of the team. Selviri was the what. And then we came up with a code of conduct for discipline. And then we did a SWOT analysis of the club. When we did a SWOT analysis of the club, we noticed that one of our weaknesses are that we don't go for international tournaments.
Okay.
Then we don't go for very good talent outside. We want to build our own. And that is about the time I think Warren was at university. Then we agreed that we are going to go out and compete for those good university players. And we also agreed to retain our players.
So not taking, not the big clubs coming and taking those good players from you.
Yes, we sent Warren out to get us one of those, some of those Makerere players. So he brought here Luke. Ate it. He brought here Andre, a Kenyan.
A Kenyan, yeah.
Kaowa, Andre. And that transformed our team so much. Meanwhile, also OKD
were friendly to us. Were friendly to Sporters.
Yes, but they were also losing it. Their patron had gone out and they were coming down. So some of their players wanted to join us. So we went for tournaments. This time we managed to get to some finals. We managed to play very well in those few years. And I think the biggest decision we made was to attract Aitit and Andre, because they were center blockers. But even then, when they were on the backcourt, they were taking the pipe.
I remember Luke taking a backcourt in 3.
And they were effective. They were effective. So we had Isaac Omedo, we had Philip Wandawa, we had Yakan in the pipeline. However, we had some players that had come of age, like Sadat, who was technical, but he was also able to play. Dan was still very vibrant, Kaziwe Dan. Warren, of course, for him was okay.
Still a young boy.
Yes. We had Mwanika, was also growing. Yes, and we had other players like
other players who came on board,
the Anjubas who were there. So we decided to go out and compete. We went out to compete. Of course, when we say performing well, other players were attracted to us.
Yeah.
Like I told you, there was a migration from OKD.
So
to
once OKD was rolling sleeves down,
yes.
so players found it the Sporters an attractive ground for them to be.
And we got Solomon Malinga. And I think that was a huge addition because the middle was sorted with those two. Then
Andre and Luke.
Then we had Solomon Malinga. We had also some guy called, they were twins. One was called Philip and Odong. Very stubborn boy.
Yeah,
if you, I mean, all the opponents failed to deal with him at any one time. So those were our receiver attackers.
In fact, his brother died, is it?
Yeah, yes. Philip died. He passed on. May his soul rest in peace. So that's how we started building the team. However, when Yakan goes to Chitende, he becomes so good and he starts demolishing everything. Because I remember in senior 6, we blocked him from playing.
Who blocked him?
Us.
So that he can concentrate
on his studies.
I
However,
think that has been
Randis took him. Kana had come of age. Yet you had the Malingas, the Solos, and that time Ndeke was part of us.
And Ndeke, this Kenyan.
Yeah, they were very good already. So we started going for tournaments. I remember we went for the first tournament in Kamuli.
Kamuli Open?
Yes, we beat what? KVC. We beat KCC at the final. And KCC at that time had come up. They were so good. They were the ones now competing with KVC. For us, we were third. So we beat KCCA. That gave us a serious boost. We went to Kenya. We had to play final with KCCA. It was not complete. We came back to finish it at sharing. We beat them still also in 5 sets.